Yeah, I've been watching a lot of television in the 60s and in the early 70s, which featured the Hammond sound. And then I started to hear that same sound on other records that I was interested in. For instance, Booker T and the MGs, that kind of Green Onions. That kind of sound, I thought, what the hell is that? It's beautiful and cool and exciting and a combination of lots of things. And so I was very drawn to that. And when I was about 14, 15 years old, I thought, that's what I want to do in my life. You know, I want to be a Hammond player. And that became the thing. I heard the Small Faces, Grow Your Own and Almost Grown. I found that very exciting use of the instrument. And I joined a band called The Prisoners, and we started performing that sort of stuff. So my heroes were Booker T, Ian McLagan from The Small Faces, John Lord from Deep Purple, Keith Emerson. There was a band called Caravan, they're quite a sort of proggy sort of band from around here, from the 60s and 70s, which I love their organ sound as well. So fairly broad. And then I discovered Jimmy Smith, and that pulled me in a completely different direction. And it became much more jazzy for me. But I was already excited about this particular groove that the Prisoners developed, which was a kind of funky groove, really. And we were doing... So the drums would be going bop, and that was really like swinging as far as I was concerned. So the Prisoners got quite a long way towards funky grooves, but didn't go into full-blown James Brown territory. Although when I got out of the Prisoners and set up my own band, then I had a broad sweep of grooves to draw from. So that original Prisoners groove, I was able to use. So I took a Herbie Hancock thing, the theme from Blow Up. So we had that bass line which got used by Delight. That. I could get the drummer to do that same. And that worked really well on audiences, and also that record Blow Up got played a lot on things like John Peel radio show on Radio 1, so that kind of introduced the band. Also, there was this whole thing going on before, as I say, I was watching the television and films and going, I like that. So TV and film became a huge source of, like a resource of music. Like that program Joe 90, we thought that had a wicked... how did it go? Something like that. and you know, we were able to do that on stage again. So everything was about trying to get people dancing, but we were very influenced by television and film in the music. And so when I set up JTQ, my own band, at the end of The Prisoners, I was able to exploit that a lot more, go a lot more into film, covering our favourite film tunes, you know, things like Mission Impossible, you know, that. Which is a guy, Lalo Schifrin wrote that. So Lalo Schifrin's been a big influence in general, because he also did things like Dirty Harry and a lot of that stuff. Yeah, we were able to cover a lot of our favourite sort of bits of film music and TV music. Or, with an album like The Money Spider, which was our second album, we kind of wrote a soundtrack to a fictitious movie, and it was the first album like that. There's been about 1 million since. Yeah, then we got signed by a major called Polydor, and we came with this, let's sort of bring the more American funk sound in. So we did a cover of the theme from Starsky and Hutch. Now, the original of Starsky and Hutch by Tom Scott had a very kind of angular, strange backbeat to it, which made you want to trip up when you were trying to dance to it. So we thought we'd straighten that out and then make the groove more English. So it became... So we still got that boom dat 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 boom dat. It's just a bit more driving and it's a bit more disco, basically. It's kind of lends itself to the dance floor, and that became a club hit for us. So we were flirting with that kind of more really dancey sort of thing, and that worked for us. And then we came on with a full-on sort of dance kind of club anthem, which we then put vocals on, which is a piece of music called "Love the Life." It's like a funk thing which is pulling you towards a 4/4 thing. So it's like a funk disco crossover, essentially, but with Hammond and soul vocals. So we thought that's pretty good. That's a kind of what at the time they called it acid jazz. We thought that works for us, and that became a hit single for us. So the development of the band had gone from that very kind of Small Faces-y soul thing through to more contemporary soul, actually, but always with the kind of funky drums and the Hammond at the centre of it. Another tune that we did well with was a thing called "Stepping Into My Life," which had this sort of... So the groove would be again, quite a dancey sort of thing. So yeah, the essence of what we've been doing has always been to try and move the room. But when I discovered Jimmy Smith, which was kind of much more about Hammond and more about jazz, we started covering some of his stuff as well. There's, for instance, this kind of like slow groove that he does on a tune called "Root Down." A band like James Taylor Quartet, we get booked to play, say, a mod venue. Okay, I kind of know what that group of people might want to hear. But the next night, we're going to be playing a jazz club. And I have less understanding of what might work on a bunch of guys sitting down, maybe discussing what they did in the office today while there's a band playing. You don't want to be wallpaper. You want to engage these people and entertain them. So you have to find a way to dig deep with the instrument and with the grooves that you're using to kind of seduce and draw people in. And that's what we've become quite skilled at. That's our kind of trick. That's the essence of what JTQ is very empathic and monitoring the audience the whole time and trying to find how to make a connection with them. And sometimes we can't, but usually we find a way to kind of, and it could be much broader than that. It could be that you're playing, I mean, we play like a car launch for Ford in Paris we did the other day. It was us and Kylie. And you've got a bunch of Parisian car journalists wandering around with their back to you while you're playing. And it's like you want to find a way to penetrate that and reach that. So you need a lot of tools and tricks and things that you can use to kind of work an audience. And we could be playing the following day a rock festival, you know, really a heavy metal festival. We get booked onto the strangest gigs in like the Black. We did one in the Black Forest in Bavaria. It was a full-on heavy metal festival, and then we were wheeled on with a Hammond organ and a few jazzy grooves. You know, how can we kind of do this? And you find a way, you know, to engage people that wouldn't normally listen to that sort of stuff. The mass that I've written is essentially a piece of classical music. It's kind of got this it's kind of quite angular. There's a choir singing over the top of that in Latin. But we managed to get the funky drums into that as well, so that the mass starts out as very classical and gothic-y, and then we have some solo parts sung by some of the choristers, and then we kick in with funky drums and we make it our own thing. So we develop it out of that into a kind of you bring the rhythm into it, and actually the big challenge for us at the moment, and the thing that interests us at the moment is because we love classical music, but we can see why it is kind of virtually impenetrable very often to our kind of listener, to our kind of audience. So we want to take those beautiful things and those beautiful sounds, like a fantastic choral sound or orchestral sound, and somehow bring our groove to that. So, for instance, with the Mass, we wrote something very classical, but then we kind of move it into a jazzier, funkier territory, the same piece of music. So you're blending things and trying to pull together fairly disparate musical ideas with a view to creating something new.